Maybe Clem and Serral, assuming that they are going to win their group. Now, playoffs are never going to be easy for anyone, and making it there will already net you $3,000. So that is one more reason to just get this out of the way and secure that slot ASAP. In the top right side, we're looking at the main base of the man who's won more European Pro Tours, or, well, ESL Pro Tour weeklies than anyone else on this planet. Hailing from Germany, it is HeRoMaRinE.
Down here in the bottom left-hand side of the map, the red Protoss player. He is the biggest of boys outside of maybe his opponent. It is PartinG. Who is the bigger boy here, Kev? Is it the big boy, or is it Big Gabe?
It's Gabe. Don't ask silly.
Fair enough. I actually really like something that ZombieGuard was saying, though, about the differences between PartinG or SOS, right? SOS brings the weirdness of his build orders and things along those lines. PartinG actually just does things like ZombieGuard was saying. You can see them coming a bit in advance, but it's just about how well he executes a lot of those attacks and everything. We even saw a little hint of that with some of his really top-notch Blink Stalker micro in his series versus Neve.
Yeah, I think in the first game, PartinG looked very well. The second game, he honestly looked a little bit stubborn, even though in the end he was able to win it after he gunned down at Prism. We were like, oh, that was crazy. But let's not forget that PartinG was already in an incredibly good spot in that game, and he could have easily just dragged it out. He could have contained his opponent. But that's sometimes a little bit of a weakness of PartinG. The man has no chill. He doesn't want to drag games out. If he feels like he can just win it, he will go ahead and win it. And that's something that can really backfire in PvP, like we saw. One Immortal, a battery, and an overcharge, and a War Prism. Suddenly your 11 Stalkers are useless. Let's not forget that in this matchup, that can actually be the case too, because you can be ahead. But if you are very heavy on Zealots and Stalkers, you take an awful fight near some depots and a bunker or two, you can actually let leads slip away as well. And don't let a lead slip away against Gabe, because Gabe will punish you.
Yeah, gotta keep an eye on that probe as well. And I mean, we've been talking a lot about Blink Stalkers and stuff, and for context, guys, if you have been keeping up with some of the GSL games and everything, PartinG has taken down some definitely titans of the Korean Terran scenes in the form of players like Beyond or like Bunny, who's been on a crazy hot streak, but yeah.
But I find fun as well to look at what Gabe is doing here. So Gabe has opened up with a Reaper, and that's not something that's actually a standard when he goes up against the European Protosses. There are so many games where he just goes Marine into Reactor, or sometimes he even goes Reactor first, and he switches it up a little bit. But it seems to be the game plan of Gabe here to really figure out what kind of tech he's going up against. Knowing perhaps how wild and aggressive these Korean Protoss players can be, he doesn't feel comfortable just building a couple of Marines and sitting at home. And I actually don't hate that decision when you go up against PartinG.
Well, the SCV is going to be able to get two-shotted over here thanks to the probe's extra 5 damage that it did earlier on. So snipes off one of the workers, but we already said the HeRoMaRinE is prepared for that. Had his SCVs ready to kind of help finish things off, but I mean, this is already kind of annoying, and we do see the Dark Shrine coming on out over here for PartinG. He is going to go relatively unscouted for now.
Yep, it's actually really hard to scout that, but maybe if HeRoMaRinE can just get into the main base with his Hellion and his Reaper, he can already put 2 and 2 together. It's like, wait a minute, you have a Twilight Council, but I don't really see any Stalkers, I don't really see anything being researched. Maybe by then PartinG will fire up Blink or even charge temporarily to sell it. But if you would go up against a Blink Stalker opening, you're gonna run into multiple Stalkers here. If the only thing you see are Adepts, well, Adepts cost less gas than Stalkers. And let's not pretend that PartinG is not a fan of the Dark Shrine, because we know that he loves it almost as much as Zest loved to use it against HeRoMaRinE. And Zest actually often gets very good results against Gabe.
Oh yeah, Zest has gotten very good results against a lot of, I feel like, Terran players with his DT plays. But Dark Shrine is getting closer and closer to finishing on up, and we'll see if HeRoMaRinE is going to have his units in position to also defend. He is already getting that medevac out. He has a Widow Mine directly underneath it. Might be sending that out, and it looks like that medevac is already on its way out. The Hellion, the Reaper also moving across the map. I mean, this can also be another very awkward thing if you just literally don't have enough units in position. But with a full wall off, Gabe should be in a much better position to deal with any kind of small DT run by.
Yep, I like the full wall off. Obviously, there is no Robo yet for PartinG, so he's not going to be able to drop a couple of Dark Templars into the main base. The Reaper hops in. I think it will really come down to, can Gabe get some damage done with his medevac? 2 mines. There are 16 probes in his mineral line.
Oh,
PartinG is chasing the Reaper. He's maybe chasing the Hellion.
no.
No pull yet. This Widow Mine drop is going to hurt. My goodness, 15 out of 16 probes went down there. Well, if you talk about a good start for Gabe, hallelujah. They don't get any better than that.
Yeah, I think at that exact moment, of course the Reaper was distracting him, but also PartinG was trying to run into the DTs, and there's so many places you can actually look at on a map at once, Kevin. We definitely see that PartinG was not looking at his natural.
Well, it almost would have been better if he never looked at his natural, because I think if he does nothing there, it's still going to hurt.
Probably lose like 8 or 9, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to lose 8 or 9, but when you try to pull the probes away at the very last moment, as one Dark Templar just casually runs into this bunker, HeRoMaRinE is flying so far in this game.
Yeah, well, it's not even just going to be about the fact that, yes, there's of course this great worker advantage now here for HeRoMaRinE. HeRoMaRinE is still potentially going to be able to get at least one worker. Very nice split off over there at the last second there from PartinG, but it's also just about the fact that if you look at PartinG's tech right now, he's got Charge just now starting. He's just starting up his Robo. There's no other form of the kind of later stage Protoss tech that you normally want. At most, you can turn those DTs into Archons. None of that is really going to be helpful when there's a big push coming across the map here from Gabe right now.
Yeah, but if PartinG can buy some time with the Blink Stalkers and Charge finishes off...
Oh, not like that!
No, you cannot move Command your Stalkers, man. This is a bit of a train wreck of a game so far for PartinG. It feels like almost everything that could possibly go wrong is going wrong. He has started to shave off some units, and Charge really doesn't take very long. So if PartinG can just buy a little bit of time for himself, there is a chance that he may be able to at least stabilize here. I gotta say, I'm surprised that he's fighting this far out, but he's gonna at least bait out the missile turrets, or the auto turrets.
Yeah. Banshee also staying alive over here. There's the blink forward onto the tanks. The Stalkers are so low on hit points, so that just the splash damage is enough to batter down most of them. Now, all the siege tanks, except for the reinforcing one, have been sniped off. This DT also getting some good work done. It does finally get scanned. The shield battery overcharge isn't going to actually be enough against this small squadron of units. Shield battery does get taken out, but so does the siege tank. And just these Stalkers, they don't have enough room to micro back.
Well, we can warp in a couple of Zealots. Just kill that Banshee, and then all that's left are a couple of Marines that don't even have stim yet. So it's really not that bad for PartinG. Of course, it was a very bloody and messy hold, but the fact that it was a hold in the first place, I think is very impressive. Stalkers are indeed kind of running out of room. Can we have one more blink available? Yes, we can. Look at how low on HP. Warp in a couple of units. PartinG, he's trying his hardest. Losing all these low HP Stalkers does really hurt. And now another tank shows up. I mean, I would love to see him get some Zealots. He's got 800 minerals in the bank, but he's just not been able to warp in Zealots. Goes for one more DT instead. PartinG won't die here, but my goodness, did he take a lot of damage.
Yeah, and this is already off the back of, a not-so-great start from earlier on, and eventually HeRoMaRinE does finally retreat back, like you were saying. And hey, the DT might even be able to find a little bit more damage to the siege tank. I don't think you should be able to get it in time, but, well, maybe these Stalkers also chase. It's not exactly like there's going to be reinforcements showing up for it.
I kind of like what PartinG was doing at first with the Stalkers. He was fighting very far out. There's one more tank here that is not going to go down. SCV repairing it. The Stalkers blink forward, another ballsy blink.
Well, only one Stalker for it. That's just not the worst trade.
5 more gates, by the way. How many gateways was he on? Only 3, and I guess that's why he just wasn't able to spend his money. So we're going from 3 gateways to 8. It was kind of cool that he forced those auto turrets to be dropped that far away from the Nexus, and that I think is what allowed him to save the Nexus in the end. But there was that one moment where both tanks sieged up, and I was like, I'm not sure if you want to forward blink. He did it anyway, lost a lot of his Stalkers. Does get one more tank here. I mean, the more tanks that he's going to pick off, the longer he's going to keep HeRoMaRinE at home. In a weird way, I almost feel that PartinG should have hoped that HeRoMaRinE moved out again. And he can kind of swarm him, overwhelming with gateway units.
Yeah.
He still doesn't have a forge, doesn't have a robo bay. So by killing the tanks, you're going to force Gabe to stay at home. But I feel like PartinG's best chance is HeRoMaRinE moving out when he shouldn't be moving out.
Yeah, exactly what you were saying. With no forge or any upgrades or anything coming out, it really does feel like he's just going for a big charge lot with a few handful of these Blink Stalkers and Archon warping. A couple of DTs getting made over here, interestingly enough, though. So the Temple Archives, maybe it's because it's not ready yet that he was warping in the DTs to make an Archon. I really thought the Temple Archives was just going to be for that.
Well, we will figure it out. I mean, HeRoMaRiNE's production temple is halfway across the screen. Tanks are not sieged. The Marine count really not that high. We don't have a Zealot here either. I do like the anti-armor missile. These Zealots are going to melt. They, of course, don't have any upgrades from the Forge. That isn't there. Yeah. I mean,
Threats of Storm?
Yeah. I don't hate it, actually.
Yeah.
It's one of the better ways to get back into this game, because just spamming Zealots and Stalkers without a Forge, without any upgrades, down 15 workers, that's impossible. I once upon a time cast a ridiculous game between Hero and Alive where I think Hero was down 4 upgrades and actually did win with just non-stop storm drops, so maybe it's his best choice, but obviously every decision is going to be questionable.
It is always going to be really tough. I really like that he's still staying active with these Stalkers, although you don't want to lose any of them if you can avoid it. Zelnaga Watcher giving you a little bit of advanced notice. Forces out a stim from a handful of these units earlier on as well. We'll see if PartinG's going to have enough to defend at this location. Using that Warp Prism to keep an eye on these units. Does he have the High Templars in the Warp Prism right now? Yes, he does, but Storm is still not finished.
I actually kind of like what he did there. He was bluffing. He's like, hey man, I've got Storm. If you come in too soon, because we have one more Dark Templar sneaking into the mineral line. Seems like 5 SCVs went down. Gabe's going to stim forward. He knows battery overcharge is about to run out. That would obviously be a great moment for HeRoMaRinE to fight. I kind of like the way he left his Marines behind, because now if he gets stormed on Marauders. And they can actually tank the storms for a little bit.
Yeah, but here we go. PartinG is going to go ahead and charge on in. Quite literally, Storm is done, and the High Templars are going to finally start unloading. They do manage to find a handful of the Marines. The Charge Lot's getting in on top of the Marauders, and miraculously, PartinG is pushing HeRoMaRinE very far back, and he's going to take his tax on a lot of the units on the retreat.
PartinG is actually playing very well with the little that he has. He's going to drop double forge at this point. He is going up to 4 bases. Yeah, maybe overextended a little bit there because the reinforcements of Gabe goes too far forward with one more High Templar inside of it, I believe.
Yeah.
This is going to make PartinG turn around again, but these units, they just don't trade well at all. These bio units have plus, but the Zealots don't have any armor upgrades whatsoever.
Yeah, it looks like the Archons are at least going to be able to survive for a little bit, but the stimmed bio is still chasing after him. The Stalker's going to try and buy a bit of time. That's actually a really, really clever move, using those Stalkers to actually then give the time for the Archons to retreat on out. But it's still going to be, like you said, Kev, a really, really tough time as the upgrades are just not something you can really fall too far behind on in this matchup.
It's not just the upgrades, of course, it's also that the fact that HeRoMaRinE has had more workers for the last 5 or 6 minutes in this game. Not something we see very often in PvP. That, of course, had everything to do with that amazing Widowmine drop in the natural and that follow-up aggression at the 3rd. Well, does PartinG have enough time to get a few more High Templars out, try to get a few more Miraculous Storms off? Gotta say, love the SimCity here by Gabe.
Yeah, this is actually going to make it very difficult for those DTs to get a whole lot of damage done, and, well, it's going to come down to the storms yet again, and here comes the Warp Prism, ready with the storms. Oh, but the Interference Matrix is going to disable the Warp Prism and prevent it from actually unloading any of the High Templars, and with no High Templars, no storm, there is no chance for PartinG to actually take a fight over here. Now that the Interference Matrix is done, we see that HeRoMaRiNE's already pre-spreading out his army. Even if HeRoMaRiNE loses most of his army, as long as he trades even somewhat okay, he's still got the economy behind this that PartinG just frankly doesn't.
Yeah, and I think he's trading totally fine. He has a couple of Widowmines coming in as well. During all of this, we had a Widowmine drop at the 3rd, by the way. 2 Widowmines have killed 14 probes by the looks of it. A couple of Zealots are going to get picked off there, and that is going to do it. HeRoMaRiNE takes the 1-0 lead here in the upper bracket match of Group A. And it obviously all started with that initial double Widowmine drop.
Yeah, I actually want to go back to the fact that if that Widowmine, or take out that Widowmine drop, the fact that PartinG was in that game at all, the fact that PartinG was fighting as much as he did with how few units he had was actually the big impressive takeaway for me that game.
Yeah, no, a couple of great holds, and I think he was very patient with his storms when he finally did have his hands on storm, and he actually connected with the bio. Then maybe got a bit too overeager and he chased out, but I can't really fault him too much for it, because playing a game from the Protoss point of view, when you have no upgrades, when you fall economically behind that hard and that much early on, it almost feels that everything you're going to do is always wrong. He made him work for it. Yeah. And I gotta say though, I do feel that Gabe has done his homework a little bit, because I don't often see him have like a full wall off immediately in his natural, and it really did seem like, just in case this is DTs and I may not have a scan available, like you can really see how much it hurts that he pulled so late. It would have actually been better to just do nothing. If you do nothing there, yeah, you're gonna lose 8 or 9 probes. That really sucks. But now he tried to pull away the probes at the absolute last second, and that made those Widowmine shots even bigger than they otherwise would have been. 15 out of 16. That's insane.
That was brutal. I actually am really curious also about exactly if it was just like you said, the homework that HeRoMaRiNE got, if he saw something, because remember, he didn't really scout in with the Reaper, right? The Reaper stayed at home because we had the Adept chasing across the map and everything. So he didn't get a lot of scouting on like maybe missing pylons or anything else like that. He didn't do any kind of move across the map super duper fast. It really just was like, yeah, I'm going to get the wall up as I do this move out. I'm going to be prepared for any kind of DT run by, and it was a DT run by.
Yeah, even if you don't see everything, the moment the only thing you do see are like 2 Adepts, and he's walling off. It's like, you got something to hide there. Like, you don't want to show the fact that you don't have any Stalkers. Reaper gets into the main base soon. It's like, I still don't see any Stalkers. Obviously, Gabe is a world-class Terran player. When there are that many units missing, I think the alarm bells will already go off, and it's like, these Korean Protoses, they always make DTs against me anyway, so this is probably DTs. This is a solid game by Gabe. Of course, a bit unfortunate for PartinG, because if that double mine drop doesn't happen, then we have a completely different game.
Well, we're going to get ready to move into game number 2 now, though, and that's going to be kind of a reset. We're not going to see a game where PartinG is just playing from behind for, you know, after basically the first 4 minutes into the game, and we'll get to see whether or not he can turn this into a more even situation moving to the later stages. But we're going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map on top of Mouse Sports' HeRoMaRinE.
Consistent Gabe, the Protoss Slayer. In the top left side, we're looking at the main base of our Korean Protoss. Once upon a time, the world champion of StarCraft 2. Now still one of the very best players in the world, 9 years later. This is PartinG.
You know, Kev, as a massive old PartinG fanboy from back in the 2012 era and everything, well, something that always stuck to me was how PartinG always described, oh, you know, the soul train, the way that I win the game is just my attacks just have more soul. That's the reason why my Immortal Sentry all-ins back in 2012 were just so much more effective than everyone else's. And I just love that in the micro and kind of this small little bits and pieces of PartinG's attacks, or even just the defenses that last game, you still kind of see a little bit of that extra soul that he has in his units.
He's a very passionate individual. I think we can see that on his stream as well. Gonna have to turn things around though. This game is going to be played on Central, which means that the first game was played on US West. Now in general, the West favors the Korean players a little bit more, Central favors the Europeans a little bit more. So Gabe has really put himself in an excellent position to potentially close it out here. Because I do believe if it goes back to game 3, it will always be played on US West again. So this is kind of it. You can say like, oh, 1-0 lead, you can do whatever you want. No, this is probably the best opportunity that HeRoMaRinE has to win Group A here today. And what a phenomenal way that would be for him to kick off the season finals.
Isn't that funny how things work out? Your best chance to advance out of the group is to advance out in first place.
With a 2-0, I mean.
Yeah, of course. I think it's going to definitely be something that HeRoMaRinE is gunning for, because first place in their group, like you were talking about before, gives you a massive, massive edge going into the playoff bracket and everything, having an opponent that came out only second in their group. We do have that probe kind of situated in the center of the map. We'll keep an eye out on that, as we're going to see the Reaper making its way across the map just as that first Adept pops on out here.
Yep. Since PartinG is getting a shield battery in his main mineral line, he's basically telling us, I'm going to shade my Adept to the other side of the map immediately. You're kind of forced to get that battery there, otherwise this Reaper right now would have a field day. 4 or 5 seconds of just gunning away at probes means you're easily going to lose 1 or 2 probes. Wow, that is a pretty aggressive pylon. It seems like we're just going to get gateway. Like for a while, PartinG did this very weird 3-gate pressure against Terran, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me, but there you have it. It is going to be 3-gate. He actually did this at the Intox 3 Masters Katowice a couple of times, and he won that one game against Innovation, I believe, on Lightshade, where I'm like, what? He just ran up the ramp, like, you know, had double orbital, sat on one base, and PartinG just ran up the ramp with 3 gateways. Great scouting here, though, by HeRoMaRinE, getting the confirmation that there is a 3rd gateway out on the map, and Gabe is just on point so far.
Yeah, I mean, remember, he did get that Reaper all the way into the main base and everything, so he kind of got to see, like, the lack of that 3rd pylon and everything, so it's definitely going to set him up nicely to try and get up some kind of defenses for any kind of attack that PartinG might go for over here. Now, the double Adepts are probably going to need to shade out of here pretty shortly, as they do let that shade finish up. Goes for little bits of damage, tries to target fire down one of the mules, doesn't get it, but there's going to be the Twilight Council that we know PartinG very much so loves, and has very much so made him... helped him advance out of his GSL group recently with.
Yeah, but PartinG is still going to need to get something done, though, because the main reason why this is not standard, and normally we see players go for a 1-gate, fast expand, and then the Twilight Councils, then obviously you get access to your attack a lot earlier. This could be a good moment for the Adepts to finish up their Shade. PartinG agrees, so HeRoMaRiNE is going to lose some mining time. I don't know if that Hellion is on the journey to the other side of the map, because I feel like the natural is going to be a little bit wide open, and a Reaper and a Hellion can actually kill probes quite quickly. So even though PartinG is dealing economic damage here, I do think that HeRoMaRiNE has the potential to get a couple probes as well.
Yeah, the Reaper and the Hellion can get a little bit of damage done. There is, like we already saw, one of those Adepts that are sitting in the natural ready to try and help defend against it. It looks like if HeRoMaRiNe isn't quite microing those units, yeah, the Adept will end up winning those fights.
PartinG is so good when it comes to creating chaos. The Adepts are still alive in the natural. They're actually picking up a couple of SCVs. He did not take any damage at home whatsoever. So PartinG is doing a great job in just letting this drag on. He actually gets into the main base. Not supposed to happen. Yeah,
and the 3 Adepts are actually enough to one-shot the workers, so I think he does get one worker over there or so before finally getting cleaned up. But now even the Stalkers are at the front, and guess what, Kev? Blink is getting closer and closer to finishing up. HeRoMaRiNE is very, very committed, or I guess pushed back right now, and he's going to have a Banshee out relatively shortly, but he's not going to really have that much of a presence on the map unless he goes for just a big push out, but this is where the Blink Stalkers really thrive.
But PartinG is basically going to have to stop this push with only Stalkers, which is very doable because Romanticide is a big map and he can kite for days. He can try to micro his units a little bit. Obviously, the ping disadvantage is not helping here. Tank's going to see that. Will he blink on top of them? Will he blink on top of them?
Oh my god.
No. He's going to kill one. He's going to split the Stalkers a little bit to make sure that the tank doesn't deal too much splash damage. And PartinG has stopped this move out before it ever even made it past the halfway point in the map. Wow, PartinG has turned things up here in game 2.
I think if you take a screenshot and show it to 8 out of 10 Protoss players, I think they'd look at that and be like, yeah, you probably move back out of that. You don't take that fight. But PartinG barely survives it. It does lose one of the Stalkers over there, or that single siege tank shot, but he really does end up taking a beautiful trade there. Is up a little bit of that army supply, and these Stalkers now have 1 less siege tank or 2 less siege tanks to worry about as he goes into the main base.
This is gonna hurt so much if you're on Team HeRoMaRiNE. A couple of SCVs go down immediately. One tank does get a shot off. I really think he can blink forward and kill the tank, and PartinG agrees. He does get the tank. All that's left are a couple of Marines, one more tank. Yeah, you can blink on this one too, and that could very well be it, man. Because now all that HeRoMaRiNE has to work with are a couple of Marines that don't have stim, they don't have combat shield. I mean, the Banshee is going to get deflected by a couple of Stalkers that were left at home. And just like that, PartinG ties up the series. My goodness, he played so well in that game.
Literally winning that game off the back of his micro. Those individual small moments, I'm sure that HeRoMaRiNE can play that exact game in the hands of, you know, many other Protoss players in place of PartinG. And HeRoMaRiNE probably takes better trades and isn't as far behind on, say, siege tanks and stuff for the defense. And he actually ends up doing okay. Maybe it's not like the best position, but he's still probably in the game. PartinG just takes it to another level.
PartinG obviously displayed some phenomenal micro there. Taking a fight near the gateway also allows him to have some extra reinforcements immediately, and sometimes 1 or 2 Stalkers really is all you need to turn that kind of a battle into your favor. I do question the move out to begin with. On one hand, the move out makes sense because he knows PartinG opened up with 3 gate, then into tech. So it's obviously going to take a long time before PartinG can have blink and charge ready. And normally you kind of want to have both. But PartinG is like, no, I know that I cannot have both, so I'm going to have to deal with this with Stalkers alone. And if you see your opponent has that many Stalkers, and I feel that Gabe did know PartinG didn't go up to 3 bases that early, because he had the Reaper and the Hellion, right, on the other side of the map. So maybe the move out overall was just a little bit unnecessary.
I'm actually curious now, did the Reaper and the Hellion actually scout out the Stalkers and stuff? Because I know the Adept cleaned up one of the Hellion at least, and I know that the Reaper then made its way into the main base. But I guess before that point, did he only really just see the Adepts and the Stalkers are kind of going under the radar until he started his move out?
Maybe he did, but even then when he went down the ramp, he could have also immediately
he could have just turned around, that's true.
Because economically, the game wasn't that bad. He was going to fall behind a little bit, because PartinG obviously did start warping in that 3rd Nexus. But Romanticide is a big map, you know. This is not back in Industries where you're like, all right, you know, I'm going to lose 2 or 3 Marines, but then I'm still at the other side of the map. On the Romanticide, there is a lot of side blockers, there's a lot of low ground, high ground. And once you start chasing Stalkers, you know you're already playing the Protoss game. You're like, actually, I shouldn't be doing this, right? But then PartinG is like, ha, got you right where I wanted. That was sick. He played really well.
I mean, ends up also not even retreating back home, right? He ends up retreating back into a corner. What's HeRoMaRiNE going to do? Chase the Stalkers all the way to the corner and then go for the attack? And definitely becomes really complicated, but that is going to give us a tied-up series now. So as we move into game number 3 on Ox side, this is going to settle it. Who is going to advance out of Group A, our first player in the playoffs? We're going to decide right here on this final map. And we are going to be starting down over here on the bottom left-hand side of the map on top of our blue Terran player, still from Mouse Sports. He is HeRoMaRinE.
That would have been shocking if after like 10 years on Mouse Sports, suddenly in the middle of this bus 3, it's like, no longer. It's like, no, guys. Everything is right in the world. In the top right side, we're looking at the main base man who displayed some great stock and micro on the central server. Now we're back on west. That should favor him a little bit. Hailing from Korea, this is PartinG.
All right, so I mean, we definitely got to see a lot of the excellent micro there again from PartinG and everything that I know I've been talking a lot about here. But HeRoMaRinE, like you were saying, like I think he did have the kind of odd move out timing and all that kind of stuff. I think one thing that we did see in the GSL group with PartinG in, you know, his, I think it was PVT versus, was it Dream? No, not Dream. Beyond. Maybe it was Beyond, yeah. One of the things that it seemed like PartinG did struggle with a little bit more was the super late game of TVP and everything, which we haven't really gotten to. And I think that's also a place where HeRoMaRinE can be really strong.
But I don't know if Gabe loves it. It's funny because I do totally agree with you. I think he is very good at it. We've seen so many 20+ minute bangers on Romanticide from HeRoMaRinE against the likes of Showtime and Mana and that kind of stuff. And it's like, man, you're actually really good at this kind of stuff. But he loves ending it in the early mid-game. I can totally understand that every Terran thinks it's an absolute nightmare to go up against the 5-base Protoss with Dark Templars that have Shadow Stride and +3 attack. No one enjoys it, but I do feel Gabe's pretty good in dealing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd be interested to see if Gabe does start making some conscious choices to try and take it a little bit more to the later stages. But like you said, we've definitely seen that Gabe likes to go for those big 2-base pushes and kind of hang back on lower base counts to try and go and ended a little bit earlier on, but I really like that Gabe is really respecting the fact that PartinG is kind of shameless about some of his build order choices sometimes. He's scouting around for any kind of potential proxy locations or anything else that PartinG could be doing right now.
There's no shield battery in the main mineral line yet of PartinG. Maybe he's expecting HeRoMaRinE to skip out the Reaper on this map and just go into one Marine into a reactor and try to get a Marine count up. But we know there is a Reaper out on the map. Not exactly sure what the Reaper is.
It was scouting around for proxies all the way in the bottom right. And funny enough, it's also going to miss the Adept Shade across the map. So it's going to miss the entire opportunity to capitalize on no shield battery there, as the second Adept is also going to be able to make its way across the map. But now you just kind of want the Reaper home to help out.
I mean, it's kind of funny because now we just look at this and be like, okay, yeah, it's nice to have the Reaper at home. But if that Reaper shows up right when that first shade finishes up, it's actually super bad for PartinG, man. You're going to end up losing at least 2 workers, if not 3 workers there, before your second Adept is out. So I actually think PartinG played a pretty risky game there, but he got away with it. And HeRoMaRinE is going to be looking at this replay and be like, oh yeah, should have got some probes. Not a Dark Shrine.
Well, it didn't work out so well in game number 1, but we'll see. This game number 2 Dark Shrine is going to be in his main base and everything. The Reaper is making its way across the map this time. And, I mean, if he's able to find his way somehow deeper into the base, maybe there's an opportunity you can scout something like that, but it's going to be pretty hard to make it passable. Is that, a pretty walled-off natural expansion and a fully walled-off main?
Yeah, this is a fully walled-off natural of the Adept moves, and obviously you can drop a grenade, but Reapers take a lot of damage from these Adepts. One Adept is going to shade into the natural and will get taken out without really accomplishing too much, but it gives PartinG a good idea of what he's going up against. He might be like, this looks somewhat familiar to the first game, but it's a bit different. And we know there is another Hellion on the way. That wasn't the case back then. I don't think we have any Widow Mines at this point. No, so this is actually going to be kind of cool. Wonder if there is an opportunity for HeRoMaRinE to do damage regardless. Like, if you pick up these 3 Hellions, drop the Hellions into the main base, one of the downsides of opening up with DTs is that you don't have a whole lot of units to begin with. And I don't know if PartinG has any vision of where this medevac is heading towards, but this can actually hurt a lot, especially because we still don't have any shield batteries.
Oh my god, the Reaper's actually going to move in over here, and you see that Warp Prism that was in the warp-in mode. You didn't actually see any units being warped in. It can be a little bit of a giveaway, and it already is. The missile turrets are starting on up. Can these DTs get damage done while PartinG also has to defend back at home? DTs are moving on in. They're going after the Marines. He's just going to try and take out all the firepower here.
And It's actually pretty sick. You can obviously always morph into an Archon as well. And it seems like HeRoMaRinE was distracted trying to deal with the Dark Templar drop. Really good play here by PartinG. What could have been a disaster actually turns into a victory for PartinG. Because he had that one Adept in the bottom right side of his main base. Gets a couple shots off on the Hellion. And Gabe was busy making sure the DTs wouldn't do too much damage. Man, I'm actually so amazed by the fact that PartinG did not lose any probes there, because I really feel like he should have been losing a buttload of workers.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you were saying, it's not even necessarily that HeRoMaRinE hasn't had opportunities, but PartinG is so good at just creating a little bit of that chaos, and kind of HeRoMaRinE has to deal with the things that are going on, and he misses that opportunity that was potentially presented to him. Now we end up seeing a situation where PartinG has his Stalkers out on the map, kind of moving around again, securing that third location. He has Blink on the way, and HeRoMaRinE is just kind of hanging back over here inside on his 2-base setup right now. What's kind of his longer-term game plan as he starts adding on more barracks?
Yeah, I really hope that Gabe is willing to just sit back a little bit longer and be like, you know what, PartinG, you're so aggressive. I know you're going to be aggressive. I know that you're Protoss and you're going to go up to 3 bases way before I can go up to 3 bases. But I wouldn't like to see another move out of a tiny army. PartinG's Blink Stalker Micro is good enough to pick you apart. 2 Hellions do not have enough firepower to one-shot workers, but they can absolutely get kills if they can fire a couple of times. Yeah, I think the best thing you can do if you're HeRoMaRinE is right now just realize I shouldn't move out with an army that's basically smaller than 50 army supply. Let's just take a little step back, realize I am falling economically behind, but that's a lot better than straight up losing the game.
Yeah, and actually I really like that PartinG is utilizing this Archon and the Prism to just do little bits of harassment, because yeah, if there was a move out over here, this would be even more so annoying because the Marines wouldn't be here, but this Archon already able to find some really good damage. Almost managed to snipe off a Mule and is going to be able to find a handful of Marines on top of the worker kills.
Yep. So we know that PartinG does not have any gateway upgrades yet, and that really is one more reason for HeRoMaRinE to not move out too early, because you already have +1 on your bio units. Combat Shield and Stim are finishing up. He's dropping those additional barracks, so I guess we're going up to 5 barracks.
Oh, PartinG blinks into the main base at the same time these Hellions are running around, but there were 2 Siege Tanks set up. 1 Siege Tank goes down. I'm amazed. I think only 1 or 2 Stalkers end up going down over there. I thought that was actually going to be disaster for PartinG, but he ends up blinking out.
I'm actually a bit worried for PartinG. It felt like the start was really good, but I think with the way that he's playing this out, he's putting himself in a bit of a dicey spot. HeRoMaRiNE's army is going to be quite a bit better. Now it all comes down to the Storms, of course. PartinG is going to have Storm very early into this game, and HeRoMaRiNE is quite Marine heavy, I believe. Yes, currently 19 Marines against 4 Marauders. So there's a lot of potential in these Storms, and obviously if PartinG survives the first wave, he is going to be in a marvelous spot, but that's really not going to be easy.
Well, he's going to go for the triple medevac drop across the map. It's going to actually potentially walk straight across either the Prism or some of the pylons. No, he ends up unloading in the center. It's going to start moving around through that center area. PartinG might still be able to scout this out with some of the Stalkers, but these units are barely dodging and avoiding each other. Finally, the Prism is actually going to catch wind of this as he sees a handful of the units. The Stalkers are coming in to try and reinforce. The Zealots trying to get to the front lines. They do have charge available to them. It looks like, well, HeRoMaRiNE's going to back off for now, but Storm is now done.
Yep, I wouldn't hate a feedback on that Raven either, because I think this Raven has a lot of potential. The Interference Matrix, nice friendly fire there. 1 Zealot soaking it up. Triple drop in the main base is absolutely going to hurt. There is a shield battery, but that's obviously not going to be enough against all these bio units. But PartinG is like, well, if you have that many units in my main, what do you really have in the center? Apparently, it's still enough to at least force PartinG to temporarily disengage. And even though this is 3 bases against 2, HeRoMaRiNE is starting to find some very serious damage.
Yeah, I love the Interference Matrix on that Prism again, because it's not necessarily is doing tons of damage, but it's buying time. And while the DTs are trying to buy time themselves until the recall gets off, the Archon is barely going to survive for now. As the pickup comes out, the empty medevac is the unit that gets sniped off over there. And it looks like at the same time, HeRoMaRiNE is posturing himself into a nice position, maybe going to be able to get another one of these Archons over here. It barely gets up to the high ground. And it seems like he's going to have a hard time actually managing to defend.
So many Winter Mines. There are so many Winter Mines here. You got to be real careful. The Prism does go down, but not before all the High Templars get out and drop a couple of good Storms. And that means that the Winter Mines will get taken care of too. A lot of these medevacs are low on HP and they're low on energy as well. So HeRoMaRiNE does have some reinforcements on the way. PartinG may have to disengage unless he's got a few extra Storms to work with. And it seems like he does. He blinks forward. This is pretty wild, but hey, so far so good.
Yeah, the last Zealot is going to be going down over here, though, and that is where things get a little bit dicey. If you chase too far forward, this army can try and turn around and start taking some trades, but we end up seeing that the High Templars are so far away right now. PartinG is just going to continue chasing.
Blinks forward again, but does not blink into the Widowmine. Still had that one observer there. That was the only observer that was out on the map for the longest time. But yeah, it actually gave him the heads up. I'm really impressed by how well PartinG handled all of that, because at one point I'm like, ugh, the fight in the center is not even all that great. There is still a triple drop in your main base, but I think the immediate defensive DT's got a couple swipes off, and I think the recall really saved him.
Absolutely. Well, now we end up in a really interesting position, Kev, because PartinG is able to survive against all the continuous aggression there from HeRoMaRinE, but HeRoMaRinE is definitely going to be down quite a few workers, down a lot of the base count as well, and the bright side is he does have Ghost coming out, so this has got to be his final kind of hurrah push, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we may even pull a couple of the boys just to soak up. He is long distance mining here for a split second. Another forward blink there by PartinG. PartinG is really good at just picking up any unit that is slightly out of position.
Oh, Widowmines poaching on forward. One of them is going to get picked off over there. PartinG getting away with his entire army, only losing a single one of those zealots. But yeah, as long as he's just buying time, he is getting more and more time for more warp-ins. His economy is going to be paying off. He's about to finish up +1 weapons as well. He's finally going to be catching up a little bit in the upgrades, looking for the feedback on the Raven. Ends up having to settle for a Storm, but I love that he is kind of even just threatening it.
He does save it though, the High Templar. That's very nice. Gets a little Storm off, drops another Forge. You already have one, so he wants to go double Forge. PartinG is going up to 4 bases against a 2-base HeRoMaRinE. Since PartinG lost his Observer, I'm pretty sure that he thinks there may have been a 3rd command center. We know there wasn't. High Templars have dropped very far forward. Interference Matrix, Goody in peace as well. This could very well be HeRoMaRinE's golden opportunity, but I can't imagine a world where PartinG doesn't have a couple of additional Storms to fall back to.
He does actually still have 4 High Templars out on the map right now. A handful of them are a little bit further north and we can't see them, but they're coming in. The Raven doesn't have energy for any more interference matrixes, and the Storms are just covering everything, even if the Prism goes down. Remember, HeRoMaRinE has to win with this push, and if he barely trades out, that's not good enough.
No, this is probably not going to be good enough. Couple of Marines still going strong, but look at that one Immortal doing some work in the back. Extra Zealots are going to save the day. And PartinG will be the first player to make it into the playoffs of the DreamHack Masters